Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Impact webinar about healing and the outdoors. We're so delighted that you are here. My name is Gwen Ichinosi-Bagley, and I have the honor of serving as the Youth Development Officer with the YMCA of Greater Seattle. Wanted to get us started with sharing a little bit about our camping and outdoor leadership team. We have a talented group of leaders from Meredith Cambray, who you'll hear from a little bit later, to Bria and David, who serve as our executive directors at Camp Coleman and Camp Arkyla, Portia, who manages all the behind-the-scenes systems that makes camp work, Jeff, who is our district director for outdoor leadership and with our Bold and Gold and our Earth Service Corps in particular, and again, myself. And we're just delighted to be able to serve in this space. So today's webinar is going to include a couple of things with our trail map in honor of our outdoor camping and outdoor leadership. So we're going to be sharing a little bit about who we are, the impact of camping and outdoor leadership with service to youth, our vision for the future. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from others in the field and hear their own words and share about some specific ways that you can get involved to support our work. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Meredith Cambray, who will be facilitating the remainder of this webinar. Meredith has over 20 years of experience directing camp programs, including 11 years with the YMCA and day and overnight camps. She is on her 8th year as the Senior Executive Director for Camping and Outdoor Leadership in Seattle. In 2016, the Bold and Gold programs and YMCA Earth Service Corps, and then joined the Camping and Outdoor Leadership team, along with overseeing the programs at our Camp Coleman and Camp Arkyla, which continue to sustain growth and impact even during these unprecedented times. Meredith grew up as going to camp, and she believes that camp is a place that kids get essential tools to grow into healthy, happy adults. And she is driven by her desire to make those tools available to more kids. And on a personal note, I just appreciate Meredith for her passion and her leadership in the outdoor space and around equity and social justice. So Meredith, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. You saw up there on our slide, the previous slide, our mission statement and our equity statement. And I just want to say that we, our mission is to encourage all people, especially the young, to develop their fullest potential. And we really believe that the outdoors the outdoors and camping and outdoor leadership programs are really incredible tools to accomplish that mission. And so what we're going to talk about today are the ways that we employ those tools to that end. There are a few things that are central to the work that we do and that really drive us. And so the YMCA has 4 core values of respect, responsibility, honesty, and caring. And those are about character development. And so those are themes and values that run through all YMCA programs. And then there are some additional themes that have the Camping and Outdoor Leadership Board has really committed to and said these are things that are important in addition to those 4 core values in all of our programs. So one of those is equity and inclusion. We want to be advocates for equity both in our programs and beyond. And similarly with environmental stewardship and championship, we want not only for our programs to be examples of environmental stewardship and for people to have the opportunity to learn about the environment, but we also want to be equipping young people with the tools that we need to combat climate change and to make our world better for everyone. So those are some values that are really central to the work that we do. One of the things that we know in this world, and so this webinar is all about healing, and one of the things that we know is that there's a lot of healing that the world needs right now. So one study done by the Partnership for 21st Century Learning in 2016 noted that there are some skill gaps in young people entering the workforce and in young people who are being faced with problems that they're ill-equipped to solve. And some of those gaps, I think it's important to note here because they really tie into a lot of the healing that we think about needing in this world. And so one of them is thinking critically and making judgments, solving complex and open-ended problems, creativity, communicating and collaborating is a big one, and then financial health and civic responsibilities. And as we transition to the next piece, I think it's interesting to note the overlap. So there was a study done by the University of Waterloo in 2011 that noted the ways in which overnight outdoor camping experiences can impact a young person. So what they noted was that young people with those experiences demonstrate greater levels of social integration and citizenship, greater awareness of and appreciation of the environment and natural spaces, greater self-confidence and personal development, greater emotional intelligence, which we know is a huge thing in living and working with people, and then attitudes toward physical activity. So, you know, young people were out in nature having positive exercise experiences, and without really even sometimes realizing it, they were developing an affinity towards being active and being in the outdoors. So another thing that I'll note about that study is that the American Camp Association is currently in process of doing another study, and the preliminary results indicate that the findings will corroborate the study by the University of Waterloo back in 2011. Another thing that I think is really interesting is brain science. So in somewhat recent years, our ability through science to map learning as it takes place in the brain has grown by leaps and bounds. So we're able to actually see learning in real time in the brain and how it works. And so this slide shows a little bit of that. So the first slide is the brain of a newborn child, and each one of those squiggly lines represents a piece of information that is making a connection. So for instance, it may be the sound of a mother's voice and some positive connection with that. So that's a connection that gets made, and then it sort of writes that squiggly line in the brain. By the time a child is about 7 years old, the brain has collected a lot of squiggles. And so the brain is taking in all sorts of information all the time and making some connections that might not always stick or make sense. So I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with a 7-year-old who wanted to tell you about the dinosaur that was friends with the giraffe that went to the moon and did the, so the brains of 7-year-olds are magnificently and marvelously creative, partly because they have all these interconnected synapses in their brain. And what happens then as a young person ages is that there's a paring down process. So the information that we hold in our brain that we keep over that time are the connections that get traveled most frequently. And so what that means for us, what that means for outdoor experiences, is that if we want young people to be resilient in the world, if we want young people to have practice living and working with people that are not like themselves and that have different life experiences, if we want people to have enough grit to fail and get up and try again, then we need to give them the experiences and have them make those connections over and over. And the more often they make those connections, the more likely those experiences are to stick in their brain. So I want to say practice makes perfect, or another way to say that in relation to brain science is practice makes permanent. And the way that we do our programs may seem like a lot of fun, but I would say fun is what it feels like when we help people grow. It is not our reason for being, and we're very intentional about that. So the overnight experience, being away from home, is a very intentional way to build a sense of independence and self-agency. Small groups and icebreakers. However much you may groan when you're in a group that's being asked to do an icebreaker, we know that those types of experiences lead to a greater sense of belonging. We do group and individual trials such as a zip line or a low ropes course activity that's problem solving, and we know that that leads to a sense of resilience and being afraid, but knowing that you can do it anyway. We also have, I talk about progression with something like archery. So the first time you do archery, it may be just enough for you to figure out how to hold the arrow and the bow and shoot it and like hit something in that general direction. But as you progress in your skills, we want to continue to meet you with a challenge that matches how your skills have developed. And that is how we continue to build on a sense of achievement, which is a very important aspect of young people feeling, again, that sense of agency and self-confidence. So those are some of the sort of philosophical things about why we know these are important healing experiences for young people and very important experiences for young people to have as kind of part of their holistic education and growth as a human to develop their fullest potential. And over the last 8 years, it makes me very happy to say that we've increased the number of people that get to have access to those experiences considerably. So in our summer camp programs, we're serving up approximately 6,000 youth per year. And that is the program that most people think of when they think of our camping and outdoor leadership programs. But what they might not realize is that the program that serves the most youth in our outdoor suite of options is our outdoor environmental education program that happens at Camp Coleman and Camp Orkyla. And in this program, during the school year, entire school groups are coming to camp to experience some hands-on learning that is connected directly with the science standards and with the lessons that their teachers in the classroom are teaching. And so it's very tailor-made to that group and to really make strong connections with the academic work that they're doing in the classroom. Another thing that's interesting about this program is that it is our most diverse program. We are serving entire schools, so it is really accessible to everyone. We also are serving, we do a considerable amount of family camp. We have wonderful Bold and Gold expeditions, and that stands for Boys Outdoor Leadership Development and Girls Outdoor Leadership Development. And we also have another one of our unsung heroes is our YMCA Earth Service Corps program, which happens in middle and high schools, and it is a youth-led environmental service club for young people. So again, youth, it isn't adults saying these are problems that you should solve, it's youth saying these are the problems we want to solve, and adults supporting them in their efforts to do so. One of the things that we know is that camp has not historically been the most inclusive space, and we want to fix that. And so we've been doing a lot of work to reach and connect with historically excluded communities from the camping space, and have built some really interesting new programs with partners in each of these areas. So we've had an African American males and now females weekend, Latinx family camp, LGBTQ family camp, and so on. And this is just one of the many strategies that we're working on to really evaluate and be sort of self-evaluative about what we're doing to advance equity and make sure that if we believe these experiences and tools are essential to a young person's growth and development, we want all kids to have access to them. One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is as we consider healing and recovery through the outdoors is that we're hearing, obviously, there's a lot of energy right now around social change in our communities. And in addition to that, we hear very loudly and clearly from youth in our communities that they are fed up with our environmental policy and action as adults. So youth are demanding change in these areas. And one of the things that the YMCA of the USA has developed is this commitment to America, which really resonates with me. And I would encourage you to reflect, as I am, about how the camping and outdoor leadership programs may be employed to help achieve this commitment. So the YUSA is committed to developing new generations of change makers who will create the communities we all want to live in. Young people will transform communities by influencing systems change, bridging social divides, and giving back to their communities and others. Well, what does that look like for us? And I think, so with COVID-19, there were some massive disruption. This has caused a massive disruption to our programs. Our environmental education and family camp programs were completely canceled for the spring. We have done some very altered programs for the summer. We're running family camps so that families can attend overnight camp and stay in a cabin together, socially distanced from other families, but still participating in some of the activities we offer and still have an opportunity to get away and have some healing in the beautiful settings of our camps. We're also running Bold and Gold programs with expeditions going out into our national parks. And we have, I think, currently 8 trips in the field. So that's about 64 youth that are having some really much needed experiences. And we've heard an overwhelming response from parents about both of these programs, being so grateful that we're able to offer something, because families are just really needing to get their kids and themselves outdoors right now. But in addition to that, I think we want to be reflective of, with this disruption, I think comes an opportunity for us to really imagine, who do we want to be? And what is our community asking us to be? And how do we take advantage of this opportunity to really reevaluate and decide what we want, how do we want to evolve for the future? My sort of working hypothesis about this is that we have the ingredients already. We have fantastic leadership development, programming, and curriculum with our camping and outdoor leadership programs. We send hundreds of staff through a 3-week training program each summer. We send many youth through counselor in training and leader in training programs. So we've got incredible content and curriculum there. We also have incredible tools for environmental justice with our Earth Service Corps program. And in particular, what I love about that program is that it's youth-led. And our role as staff in the Y is to support youth voice, not to take it over. And then similarly with youth in government, what we're seeing is a need and a call by youth to make change to systems. And I think in order for young people to make change, or for any people to make change in systems, we need to understand how they work. And our Youth in Government program gives young people a chance to practice making change through the systems that we have in our government. So I think we have the ingredients. I'm very interested in launching a listening tour to understand more about how we combine those ingredients and share them in a way that's meaningful with our community moving forward. And that's one of the things that I think is going to be our big work, our big, hairy, exciting, deep thought work over the next probably 6 months and beyond, is going to be really reaching out and listening with our partners and our community, and exploring how we might show up in the way that is most impactful and called upon by our community. So with that, we're going to move next into our panel, and we're going to hear from some other folks about how they've experienced our programs and what hopes they may have for our future. And then after that, we'll have some Q&A. So if you have Q's and you're wanting A's, please be sure to type them into the chat box, and those will be coming up in a bit. So before we do that, I want to introduce Lynn Newcomb, who's the executive director of one of our partners, Turning Point Seattle, and who's been working with us for a few years. So Lynn, would you be willing to introduce yourself, let us know how you've been involved, and how you see Y programs supporting healing and recovery? Oh, I'm sorry. Lynn is not online at the moment, so instead I'm going to go to Marichette Pulliam, who is a student and a 2019 Camp Orkyla counselor in training, and she's been a long time camper at Camp Orkyla. So Marichette, how has camp supported your growth as a person and leader? And what is your wish for camp in the future?
So hi everybody. Camp has really helped me grow as a person, and wait, sorry, something is happening outside and I forgot the question. Can you repeat that again? Can you repeat one of the questions?
Of course. How has camp supported your growth as a person and a leader?
Okay, thank you. So camp has really helped me grow as a person and as a leader, because it helped me it diverted me away from like routine that I would never have usually got done, things that hadn't thought were possible as for me, because I'm not really that much of a risk taker in my normal life, but when I was put into camp environment, it helped me go beyond my boundaries, and I've taken that along with me as a student and as a person, just making decisions, going beyond now as a high school student, just finding out who I really am, and the things that I'm good at, and reaching my potential in things that I had never thought was possible for me. And being in a leadership position has taught me that camp has not just impacted me, but it impacts so many of the young children that attend. And it wasn't until I was a CIT that I noticed truly what has happened, what it does for the young children, because a simple game of blob tag or dodgeball is turned into a strategic game where they think beyond what they would normally do, and communicate with their peers, and just lift each other. And it really does, I don't know, that has, even those tiny things have such an impact, because you take it along with you to your normal life outside of camp, and you sort of, once you continue going to camp, it becomes a pattern of I noticed that doing this has really done. Sorry, the garbage outside is so loud. It's Tuesday, and I don't know. It's something that I continue to think about, because without camp, I don't think I would be as confident in myself, or be taking as many risks as I would have now. I'm more open to things that I wouldn't have normally been able to do.
Awesome. What is your wish for camp in the future?
Okay. My wish for camp in the future is for progress in like diversity, because I've seen it happen I've seen it from when I was a young camper. It's changed tremendously, but it still could improve a lot. I remember when I was younger, there wasn't as many leaders that looked that were African American or just Latina. It wasn't something that I broached or something, but I didn't feel like as open to talking to people about like different things that had come up. And so seeing so many like international counselors come over and just getting to learn their experiences has really has helped me like cultivate my myself, and it's given so many people like new experience, new outlooks in life, because you wouldn't have normally talked to like someone from Spain on your normal day-to-day life, but at camp it gives you the chance to interact with them and exchange cultures, and and I know it has like changed so much, but it could definitely use some improvement. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else you want to share with us, or you want donors or leaders in camp to know?
I've always taken something with me after every camp trip, and I think that it's doing a great job. I don't know, it's helped so many people, just shape them, and it's given them so much, like so many skills to take with them into their camp outside of camp life, I mean. And so I don't know, just keep doing what you're doing, because it seems to be working. Thank you so much for having me speak today.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it a whole lot. I'm going to go next to Dave Affolter, who is our Executive Director for Camp Ymca. And David, would you be willing to share your perspective on the future of camp and leadership?
I will. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for opening this space. First off, I think within the Y, we're driven by an amazing mission and a really powerful equity statement. Within that, I think we have a lot of work to do around environmental justice. I think we have these amazing spaces and facilities that have operated in a similar way for many years, and I think we have a real opportunity to re-envision what that is, what that looks like in order to meet some of these opportunities that you've just laid out. So as you said earlier, Meredith, I think we're in such an unprecedented time where we really want to hear from you, hear from the community on your thoughts as we move forward. And I think what you've done is laid out a great framework for what that can look like.
I think I was on mute. Thank you so much, David. I'm coming next to Bria Cartwright, who is the camp executive for Camp Coleman. And Bria, same question. What are your thoughts on the future of camping?
Morning, everybody. Thanks, Meredith. I have been thinking a lot about this, and I think it's, as much as you talk about disruption, I think it's a really exciting time for us to take a hard look at what we're doing and what we can do. And I think for me, to some degree, I just believe that this is work we've already are really good at, about engaging kids and helping them develop and think and become independent thinkers and problem solvers. And so I think to a large degree, we need to keep doing that. And then I think we need to reach more people and be more inclusive. We talked a little bit about the equity piece, and I think make sure that we have everybody. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Make sure that we have everybody at the table. And I think one of the pieces of feedback we got recently from a family camp family was how grateful they were that we were doing this for families and for families to come to camp together. So, you know, is there more opportunity to do that? And when I look at some of the more specific targeted family camps that we have, is there more we can do within those in terms of programming, facilitating conversation, bringing in resources, listening more to those groups when we have them in camp, and hearing more about how better we can serve a larger community. I think we've got to really look at parts of our community that we've missed, because we know how important and valuable camping and outdoor leadership can be, and bring them into the fold as well. And then I think also really importantly, we've got to listen to the kids, our campers, our teens. They have strong opinions about all of this. They're super smart, and we saw that like our brains get more tired as we get older. So let's take advantage of their sharp brains and see what other ideas they have. So I think it'll be exciting to see how we evolve, and I think there's exciting growth ahead of us.
Thank you so much, Bria. It looks like we have managed to get Lynn on the call, so we're so excited to hear from you, Lynn. We would love to hear about your recent family camp experience and how you see the Y program supporting healing and recovery. Lynn, are you able to unmute to share with us?
How's that? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the families that I serve just had the chance to go a couple of weekends ago. There were about 4 families that went to Camp Coleman, and there was an empty cabin, and so my husband and I went as well. And this is what we heard from families. In fact, one of their pictures is on your slideshow. I saw it earlier where they're standing, and there's 7 of them, and they're out on the dock just finishing boating. It was a fabulous reset for them. These families have been hardest hit by the coronavirus. They have suffered quite a bit economically. With the husband of this family that was on your picture is a trucker for the Port of Seattle. And with the coronavirus, as well as the trade war, his income has dwindled to maybe $10 a day. And so they got to go. So Saba's been at home with 4 children managing their remote learning. They got to go to camp, and she said to me, this has been so refreshing. Someone else was delivering meals to them. Someone was directing their activities, so they got to go play with their kids in ways they just hadn't had the chance to do. So after 4 months of being sequestered and under intense anxiety, this was a fabulous experience for them. There were 4 families that went then. We have multiple other weeks that the families are going to go. And they were astonished. In fact, I got an email from a family who just got back from Camp Orkila. And this is another one of our families that is on free and reduced lunch. She said it was such a great place to go to enjoy all of creation, nature, wildlife, breathtaking sunsets, and beautiful night sky. Their cabin was right on the beach. And she said, we experienced peace and so much gratitude for this gift. So this has been an amazing I don't know, an amazing gift in such a time that has been so stressful for these families that are barely getting by. We're providing grocery cards to them. They are not able to pay their rent. So this is, I applaud the YMCA and all those people that have given money for this program to go forward with giving scholarships to these families.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for sharing that. It warms my heart to hear that. And, you know, it makes it feel like all the work to get to a place where we're offering something has been worth it. How do you see our collaboration in the future? And how do you want to see it in the future? It sounds like you're still muted.
Keeps going on and off. Okay.
Perfect.
So you mean our collaboration as two organizations together?
Yes.
Oh, I would love to see this going forward. We had a record number, 24 kids signed up for either Camp Kyla or Camp Coleman this summer. And it has been such an amazing situation for the families that could no way provide this for their children at all. And so, and we have a unique link into, we serve a lot of Eritrean Ethiopian families. And that was the family that you showed on your slideshow. And this is a new experience for them. They don't know anything about camping. If the children have been born here, the parents were born in Eritrea, and they said their only experience was with camping was being in the Army. So to actually be in a cabin and to participate in things like boating or archery, this is a very foreign thing for them. But it is such a way for their children to experience culture in the United States and step into it in a whole different way. So this was a particular gift for this family whose boys had come to Camp Coleman a couple of summers. And this time they were saying, oh yeah, we know how to play goggle ball, come over here. And they would take their parents and show them. Or yeah, we're gonna do this orienteering class. We know a little bit about this, let's teach you. So then they were able to lead their parents, which is fabulous. Again, this dynamic this spring has been so oppressive, with the parents having to navigate remote learning without skills and some without language. You know, English is not their first language. So that's been a very strong tension. So I see not only in this unusual summer, but I really see the strong need for our organizations to continue to collaborate, because it gives opportunities for kids that would never have the chance to do it. And it's particularly helpful that you're able to put kids as friends in one cabin, so that they're not the only two brethren that don't have a lot of resources in one cabin, you know, so they're not on their own, because they need that. They're not used to having to navigate that. They go to a very diverse school. Or schools. There's about 3 of them that we serve. So I think that's really important, especially as we're learning more and more about how to change the narrative when it comes to social dynamics or the socioeconomic institutionalized racism, all of that we are right on board with. And so this seems like a really key moment for our organizations to continue to collaborate.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for joining us today and for sharing that, and also for sticking through it through the technical difficulties.
Oh my word! Thank you to all those who did that.
We appreciate it. I'm going to go next to Jeff Esseltine. Jeff is our District Director of Outdoor Leadership, which includes leadership of our Bold and Gold programs, which stand for Boys and Girls Outdoor Leadership Development Expeditions, where we have about 64 kids backpacking in the field right now, as well as leadership of our YMCA Earth Service Corps program. So Jeff, when you think about our suite of camping and outdoor leadership programs, what do you see as our future?
Thanks, Meredith. Honestly, I think folks have touched on this, but our programs predominantly work with teens, and I think the future is carving out more space for them to drive conversations and drive where our programs go and what they're focused on and what they look like. Our Service Corps just celebrated its 30th anniversary as a program. It started here in Seattle in 1989, and I think the reason that program has persevered and been successful for 30 years is that there is a framework there that empowers youth to lead, and I think that leading has forced the program to grow and change in different ways, and often in ways that we weren't expecting it to. But that's really, I think, the power of the work that we're doing here, is that we recognize that all young people are leaders, and we're using the outdoors as a tool to support that growth and that development, and use that framework to change the world. And I guess the other thing too that I would say that's just been on my mind this summer and through the spring as we were interacting with families and teens is just hearing from them that the environment is important and social issues important, and hear them say to us that environmental justice is social justice, and all of the things that we care about and the ways that we interact with the outdoors are all wrapped up together, and that by focusing on any one of those things, we're driving larger change in our community. So I'm excited, as someone who spends a lot of time with teens, just to see how COVID and the disruptions it has caused are going to create some new opportunities for youth to push more change, and honestly to see our programs kind of adapt and grow in different ways, and maybe at a faster speed than we potentially would have seen otherwise. So it has been a whirlwind, but I'm excited to see where things go, and just continuing to hear positivity and passion from teens is just, I think, inspiring and keeps us doing this work.
Thanks so much, Jeff. I believe that we may have our last panelist is now with us. So if that is correct, I will introduce Henri Wheeler, who is a writer and part of the team in the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at Harvard Graduate School of Education, a former Camp Orkila camper and board member and volunteer extraordinaire. So Henri, what outcomes have you seen from your involvement with YMCA outdoor programs, and what role can they have in healing and recovery moving forward?
Hi. Am I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but I'm here.
We can hear you and see you. Hello.
Hello. Okay, I was prepared to answer a different question. So can you re-ask me that question so that I can think about it?
Why don't you answer the question you were prepared to answer? I thought that was it, but I may have.
Oh, I think I was answering the same questions as Marchette about how camp had supported me and how camp can make progress, but I'm happy to answer whatever question.
Great. How has camp supported your growth as a person and a leader?
So I think I have a long history with camp. I was a camper myself from the age of 12, and I've been thinking about how this is my first summer since I was 12 years old that I will not set foot on Orcas Island, and that is, yeah, it's a very emotional thing to think about. But I think that camp taught me so much about my identity. It taught me how to be a leader. It taught me how to not care what other people think about me, which I think is something that really serves me well in my current job and as a parent. And I think now, coming full circle, having worked at camp, having been on the board, and now I am the parent of 2 Camp Orkila campers, potentially 3 someday. And I think it's now teaching me how to sort of let go and let camp be an experience that is created by and experienced by other people, and that it's okay that I don't have to have my hand in it, because it will continue, and I trust in the people who are continuing to steward camp in incredible and amazing ways.
What is your wish for camp in the future?
So I am, having just said that, I am still involved in the DIG diversity, inclusion, and belonging work, specifically of the Camping and Outdoor Leadership Board. And so I think that my hope for the future is that that work continues to be foregrounded and woven into everything that is done at camp. I think that we do a really incredible job at the staff level, and the work that the staff is doing right now is motivational for me. And I think that at the board level, there's a lot of catching up that needs to be done. And so my hope is that at the board level, the work will become more of a focus and will be woven more into their work as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Henri, and for joining us today and for sticking with it through some really tough technical difficulties. So at this time, I think we're gonna go to Q&A. So I'm gonna pass it over to David English to share with us where we are with some questions.
Yeah, hi. We actually have two great questions for you. The first one, I'm actually going to direct right back at you, Meredith. Is there a possibility of having Camp Coleman or Kyla in the fall for 3-day weekends for small groups?
We don't know yet what phase we'll be in for the fall, and we don't know yet what different types of groups will be allowable in different phases. The governor has not officially released any guidance on that, and we anticipate that coming sometime soon. So with that caveat, I would say yes, we do hope to be able to offer some family camping weekend opportunities at camps in the fall.
Excellent, thank you, Meredith. In the meantime, anybody else who's still enjoying this wonderful Q&A, please send your questions. We'd love to answer them. The next one I have, I'm going to pass to Gwen. How are the Y Camp programs challenging anti-Black racism and white supremacy?
Thank you. That is an excellent question. And I would say, that part of our work as an anti-racist learning organization is acknowledging our history and the fact that, in particular with camps, has not been inclusive or welcoming, especially for Black individuals and people of color. And that is something that we really want to work through and become much more diverse and inclusive and belonging, which I love those 3 words. And really that comes to, one is acknowledging our history and owning that. The second is bringing diverse groups together to really talk through what do we need to do and what do we need to dismantle in our own systems that we have in order for us to be truly operating as an anti-racist organization. And for us, that comes with, as Meredith talked about, of doing listening sessions and being able to bring groups together, to be able to hear together, to be able to converse together, as well as take actions that lead us in that direction. And this is really a generational impact we see. And I think, as Jeff had shared, one of the audiences that we want to have is the youth voice. They are our future. They are the ones, they are change agents, and really giving a space for their voice and to support the actions in order for us to move into creating a much more diverse and inclusive camp experience than what has been our history.
Excellent, thank you. I will actually ask you another question that came up. What activities will be open when the YMCA as a whole opens?
Oh, so as the YMCA as a whole opens, that is, again, I would say our hope is about creating opportunities for community, and whether that be virtual or in person. Of course, managing our safety practices to ensure that everyone is safe. I think, as you can see, that we might have our buildings closed, but the Y itself is not closed, and we will always come up with some creative ways to provide programming in the areas of healthy living, as well as continue to provide services around our camping, even if it looks a little different, our childcare, our hunger response, and our social services work. So stay tuned, more to come on those areas as we progress through the different phases.
Awesome. Thank you, Gwen. At this time, we don't have any other audience questions. Meredith, do you have any other questions that you might be able to pose to our wonderful audience members or our panelists in the meantime?
Sure. I will say, folks on the call, if you have questions for any of us or for our panelists, please feel free to post those. I want to mention a few other things that we're kind of exploring for the fall. One of the things that we're exploring, like I said, I think the key to sort of figuring out where's the opportunity to evolve in this moment is going to be really listening to youth, listening to community partners, and doing kind of a listening tour. So that is going to be some of the work that we're going to be doing in the fall. In addition to that, we're exploring, we know that schools are not going to return to normal, and we're not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but we want to find ways that we can support families. So if schools are on, for instance, like an A-B schedule where kids are going to school for 2 days a week, but not the others, we're exploring, are there ways we can provide some outdoor education programs that would supplement what the schools are able to offer and would bring kids outdoors. So those are a couple of things we're working on for the fall. We're trying to really be adaptive and to move quickly to put the resources we have to use for the community. Another example of that is we probably will be using the kitchen at Camp Coleman to make meals that will be delivered to communities in South King County. Next question from David. Lay it on me.
All right, yeah. We got a continuation from a previous question, but what are you doing to increase these populations as leaders and counselors in training?
Great question. So we have kind of several strategies. So we don't think it's just one. One strategy is that we're working with partners such as Turning Point Seattle, like we heard from Lynn, and others to ensure that we are recruiting in communities that might not otherwise have thought of sending their kids to camp. And we work on recruiting campers of all ages, including counselors in training. We also are working on figuring out, investigating, do campers of color continue to progress with us through the leadership ranks at the same rate as non-campers of color? And if not, why is that? So we're trying to kind of critically evaluate what's happening with young people once they arrive at camp that is influencing their desire or ability to return. What systems are at play that would influence that? Yeah, so there's a lot of work kind of on multiple fronts that we're doing to try to understand and dismantle the barriers and things that make people feel unwelcome. I think we may be out of time for questions because we want to make sure that we hit on what's next. Is it back to you, Gwen?
It is. Thank you so much, Meredith. And thank you to everyone who served on our panel today and sharing your voice. And for those who contributed questions and comments. If we were not able to get to your questions, we will follow up after this with an email to make sure that we respond to all of them. So as we wrap up today, a few things that we wanted to share with you of ways to get involved in helping us with advancing our work is one is donations are always welcome, especially during these times during COVID pandemic and with the closure of our traditional programs and us moving into what is next for us. Allowing those donations will allow us our camps to continue to be sustainable as we move forward during this time. So we appreciate that. A way to advocate is please communicate with your state legislators, your elected officials about the importance of the outdoors and access, and in particular to continue the funding of the No Child Left Inside initiative. That helps us to do our work. So we appreciate that. And as Meredith has mentioned a few times, that there is going to be an opportunity to share voices around what is the future of camp and outdoors, especially with youth and in the areas of equity and social justice. So if you would like to participate in that, please communicate to Meredith, which we will provide you her email in just a minute. And finally, get outdoors. It's beautiful out there. Bring your friends. We have lots of opportunities at our 2 camp locations. There is also Bold and Gold and any other future programs, but just get outside and enjoy the space. So thank you for joining us. Again, you can see Meredith's email there. She would love to hear from you about how to connect and partner in our work. And I also want to invite you to join us for a few more summer impact webinars to hear about what the Y is doing and how we can be a part of that work collectively. So next week is taking care of our children and learning more about the role of childcare during the COVID pandemic. And we will wrap up our summer series with providing shelter to young people and how do we support that through our Social Impact Center. Thank you again so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your commitment and your partnership. Have a great day.
Huge shout out to our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us and being part of the conversation.